Alright guys, today we're diving into one of Marvel's most badass and complicated characters, Wolverine. Most people know him as this tough, claw-wielding hero who is always ready to throw down, even though he's carrying a ton of trauma and rage underneath it all. But what if I told you there are versions of Logan out there that are way darker, way scarier, and way more messed up? Ever wondered what would happen if Wolverine completely gave in to his animal instincts? Or if he lost his powers? Or worse, if he lost his humanity? Well, stick around, because we're about to check out some of the darkest, most twisted versions of Wolverine you've probably never even heard of. Hydra Wolverine. To start, one of the coldest and most disturbing versions of Wolverine in Earth 1720 is where he becomes a loyal Hydra agent. This brainwashed version of Wolverine is nothing like the reluctant hero torn between his animal instinct and moral compass that fans know. Rather, he is a ruthless killing machine and a cold-blooded conqueror recruited by Hydra and Hand as one of their deadliest assets. As a part of Hydra, Wolverine joins with an army of brainwashed superheroes and villains to launch an assault on S.H.I.E.L.D. However, that's not all. His involvement with Hydra becomes even more diabolical as he becomes romantically entangled with the Invisible Woman, who later goes on to become Madam Hydra. Together, this ruthless power couple battles the Exiles in an alternate universe, driven by cruelty and domination. However, after the battle with the Exiles concludes, Wolverine, along with the Invisible Woman and Slaymaster, abandon their own universe to go on conquering the multiverse. This just goes to show how deeply the Hydra version of Logan has fallen into the path of sin. Fortunately, or unfortunately, the Hydra version of Wolverine meets a gruesome end as he gets slaughtered by Catherine Pryde, using his own claws while hunting Sabretooth. This Hydra Wolverine is the ultimate what if. This dangerous killing machine was stripped of all his humanity and morality, and instead of battling his inner demons, he becomes one. Wolverine, Lord of the Vampires. In another alternate reality, Earth 9140, Wolverine shatters the veil of heroism and becomes one of his most horrifying incarnations, the Lord of the Vampires. In this version of reality, the powerful and ominous Dracula succeeds in his mission of turning some of the Earth's mightiest heroes and villains into vampires, and Wolverine becomes the new master of this group of blood-sucking monsters. As Dracula bites Wolverine, there is hardly any resistance from him. It becomes extremely easy for Wolverine to defeat the older vampire, since he cannot be influenced by Dracula's mind control. To top it off, the bite does not tamper with the mutant healing factor of Logan, and he retains his mutant powers, which allows him to overcome the traditional weaknesses that most vampires have, like sunlight. This added benefit makes him nearly invincible, and is what helps him gain superiority over other vampires, and after Dracula's death, he becomes their new lord. As the Lord of the Vampires, he doesn't just lead the vampires, he dominates and leaves a trail of undead in his wake. This version of Wolverine even managed to turn Daredevil and Punisher into dangerous creatures of the abyss. The vampire version of Wolverine isn't just disturbing because of his new role. Instead, it's alarming since, similar to the Hydra version, this Wolverine also succumbs to his internal shadows and becomes haunted by his violent instincts, which he relishes. His final plan of using the body of Doctor Strange to eliminate all resistance against him goes on to show just how far he is willing to go for the sake of achieving ultimate power. Wolverine Noir. Set in the alternate reality of Earth 9021-4, resides a version of Wolverine donning a revolver, knives, and a fedora. Unlike his usual adamantium claws, the Wolverine Noir, the reimagined issue, released in 2009, showcases Wolverine as a private detective in 1930s New York, a far cry from the X-Men or Weapon X program versions of the characters that fans have come to love. In this reality, as a private detective, he runs the Logan and Logan Detective Agency alongside his half-brother, Dog, where they take charge of the crime-ridden streets of New York in a gritty noir narrative. His animal instincts or mutant powers do not haunt this version of Wolverine. He is haunted by his past, filled with betrayal and violence. Thus, his battles transform from mutant rage to psychological scars. Moreover, this noir narrative strips away the superhero spectacle and presents Logan as a broken, mortal man fighting against the corruption of the outside world as well as his tortured soul. The Wolverine Noir also becomes romantically involved with Mariko Yashida, but this love affair leads to nothing but bloodshed and betrayal, which goes on to define Logan's character. This version reimagines him as a tragic anti-hero, doomed to repeat his mistakes. Darkclaw. Next on our list is Darkclaw, and this version of Wolverine from Earth 9602 is arguably one of the most intriguing and unique, capturing the attention of both Marvel and DC fans alike. This version was created during the 1996 Amalgam Comics crossover event, where characters from DC and Marvel were combined to form single hybrid heroes and villains. The result was a crossover between Batman and Wolverine, leading to the character Logan Wayne, who becomes a relentless crime fighter in Gotham City. This version of Wolverine retains Batman's origin story, where he was subjected to witnessing his parents' murder as a child, causing deep childhood trauma. He then goes on to live with his uncle in Canada, where he is exposed to the Weapon X program as a part of the Royal Canadian Air Force, and gains his iconic mutant healing factor and claws. The blend of Batman's gothic nature and detective skills, combined with Wolverine's feral nature, makes Darkclaw a fascinating superhero with the potential to be both a lone predator and a dark avenger. In this universe, it's not just Darkclaw who gets the best of both worlds, but even his greatest enemy, Hyena, is a deadly fusion of Sabretooth and Joker. While Logan's character was always defined by his internal battles, this version takes it a step further by adding to it Batman's obsession with justice and vengeance. Weapon X. Days of Future Now. Days of Future Now is set 30 years in the future after the collapse of the mutants and the rise of the Sentinels, which becomes the worst dystopian nightmare of this version of Wolverine. It is a time in the future where Wolverine is one of the few X-Men still free, after most others perished as Malcolm Colcord apprehended and captured them. Pushed to an absolute edge after years of battles, loss of loved ones and allies, and defeats, Logan's almost calamitous animalistic instincts come to light. This physical and psychological transformation, triggered by solitude, pushes Wolverine to rely more on his feral instincts for survival, to the point where he distances himself from what it means to be human. The claws that he only used occasionally as a last resort become a constant tool of violence for him. This version of the Wolverine goes on to show how a series of tragedies can blur the lines between man and monster. However, despite this transformation, Logan doesn't completely lose insight into what he has become. His conscience remains intact, and on some level, he even regrets that monster he has become. Throughout this timeline, Wolverine leads a small team of the remaining free X-Men and fights an almost hopeless fight against Weapon X, while at the same time spiraling in regret and guilt. We can say that this version of the Wolverine is the most broken, a being who once was a warrior for the right cause, now a savage creature fallen into despair in a world that doesn't have a place for him or his like. Wolverine, Horsemen of Death. Keeping up with the theme, the next version of Wolverine on our list is also one who joins the evil side after being brainwashed by Apocalypse and becomes a savage killer. It is Wolverine as the Horsemen of Death, where Logan gets injured after a fierce battle with Death in the Morlock tunnels and is captured by Apocalypse. Wolverine then replaced the original Death, who was nothing more than his clone, and became the new puppet for Apocalypse. Deeming Wolverine as the perfect candidate because of his healing power and adamantium claws, Apocalypse corrupts his mind and erases his compassion to turn him into the ultimate weapon. As a loyal enforcer to Apocalypse, Wolverine embraces his savage side and even goes against his former allies, including the X-Men. While initially completely under Apocalypse's control, he eventually begins to question his conditioning and fight back against the same, which helps him to regain his memories and identity and transform back into the Logan that he used to be. His allies, Jubilee, Nightcrawler, and Psylocke, also play a crucial role in helping Logan break free from his conditioning. This version of Wolverine is a constant reminder of one of his greatest vulnerabilities, that no matter how strong his spirit is, he is always just one step away from losing to his inner demons and becoming the monster he so fears. But at the same time, it is also a reminder that it's never too late to turn back, and as Warren puts it, light doesn't die, even in monsters. Wolverine, Earth X. Our next Wolverine on the list, from Earth 9997, is a stark contrast to every other version of Wolverine. He's not special, he's not different, he's not one of the uniquely powerful heroes. Rather, he is just another mutant face in the crowd in a dystopian world where all of humanity has transformed into mutants after being exposed to the Terrigen mists in the atmosphere. The mutation of humanity, powered by Skull, led to chaos on Earth and caused the death of every telepath, including that of Xavier. behavior. This led to the disbandment of the X-Men. This Wolverine lives in a world where everyone is special with powers, and this leads him to struggle deeply with his purpose and identity in the world. He eventually becomes romantically involved with Jean Grey and hopes to settle in New York with her. Since in this world he's no longer the last line of defense, he becomes directionless and emotionally broken, which might appear less ominous than his other versions, but in reality, is probably one of the darkest psychologically. This loss also impacted his relationship with Jean, and unlike the happy couple he had thought they would be, without powers and purpose, they turn into a run-of-the-mill bickering couple, both overweight and miserable. This version of Wolverine gave up and spent most of the rest of his life in front of his television, unbothered and unhinged by the disasters around him. Earth X Wolverine stands as one of the most melancholic and existential interpretations of the character, exploring what happens when the ultimate survivor has finally lost everything to fight for. Zombie Wolverine. Marvel Zombies Universe. The final version of Wolverine on our list, the Earth 2149 Wolverine, succumbs to a gruesome fate where he is turned into a flesh-eating zombie after an infectious virus hits Earth. Even his mutant power of healing could not protect him from the virus and caused Wolverine to become one of his most catastrophic selves, driven by an insatiable hunger for living flesh. He is the embodiment of his worst fears, losing control of his memories and intelligence and giving in to his savage instincts to feed his monstrous appetite. He becomes a part of the zombie Galacti, but gets tricked by a human survivor who sends the zombies to Earth Z, where Wolverine gives in to hunger again. Shortly after, he gets defeated by Spider-Man and his counterpart from Earth 91-12-6. This, however, does not mark the end of Zombie Wolverine, as he resurrects and joins a group of Wolverine counterparts to fight against the multiversal onslaught. In some realities, he even devours the mighty Galactus, thus highlighting the scope of his power and hunger. As time passes, the zombie Wolverine's condition deteriorates, with his healing factor slowing down and rendering him into a decaying, grotesque state. Marvelous verdict. So yeah, Logan, or Wolverine, isn't your typical superhero. He's not out here trying to be a symbol of hope or perfection. What makes him so interesting is the constant fight between the good guy he wants to be and the wild, brutal monster inside him. And honestly, it's only because he keeps that savage side in check that he's able to stand alongside other heroes. These darker versions we talked about, they're basically what happens when he loses that fight. Each one shows a different nightmare buried deep in Logan's head, whether it's losing his humanity, becoming nothing but a mindless weapon, or fully giving in to the beast within. No matter which universe we're in, the scariest enemy Wolverine ever has to face is himself.